Hey, I'm Pops, and welcome. I want to talk about the 1987 original Hellraiser film. Yes, they're doing a reboot. I guess that's what we're going to call it. A remake, a reboot, something. I didn't know it was coming this fast. I thought it was coming in a couple weeks. It drops very, very soon. So I have to record the video to kind of get in time with all of that because I really hadn't watched the film. And I remember loving the Hellraiser franchise in those first two movies in 87 and 88 when they came out. So this will be me focus on the first one and my thoughts on rewatching it, its legacy, those kinds of things. And then maybe talk a little bit I'm going to try to show some of the trailer footage, talk a little bit about some of the stuff and the legacy of the film. So tell me what you think in the comments about Hellraiser. So as I said, it came out in 87. Sorry, this is the first film. First film came in 87. Super low budget, about $1 million. Clive Barker directed it based on a little short story. I think it's a short story he did or a novel that he did, Hellbound Heart. And, it was just interesting at the time because it was sort of like gross, over the top. It was an interesting premise dealing with the curiosity of the dark side of things, belief in demons and evil, and a puzzle, little gateway key or something you shouldn't mess with because if you do, it opens Pandora's box and you're going to get worse than what you asked for. And then, trying to have a character that will navigate all that and still get away and survive to tell the tale. And that's kind of how it played out. And I remember, obviously, the legacy of the film, the marketing of the film, and everything centers around Pinhead and the Cenobites. And as I watched it, my biggest takeaway was how little they're in the film. And I went back through like some of the interviews and some of the stuff and how he wasn't really called Pinhead in the script at all. And actually Clive Barker hated that designation. And which is funny because I'm like, well, what, it seems so obvious. And it isn't derogatory at all. It just sets him apart. And he had fought with the studios on what kind of character he wanted it to be. Because he wanted to be very stoic and in control, kind of like the Dracula. He knows. It's not like an instigating villain of the times as slashers like Freddy or Jason or anything like this. It's completely different. I remember just being blown away by this. I remember reading the books, the comic books, I was kind of down that rabbit hole with the stuff. And I just remember how messed up, I learned how messed up Clive Barker is, like totally whacked out. Crazy dude. I do want to stop the screen because I do want to try to play a little bit of the sound if it will let me. I will be very tricky to figure out the right times to do that. Because there's a couple moments that to me I've not only liked. I remember quoting. I still quote some of these pieces. I call it the Nexus era, right? This formative time of your life where pop culture matters more, the music matters more, the movies matter more, things that are happening. It's like this. It creates this interesting foundational element to your life that you connect with pretty much forever. And this is one of those films. I think it's because it was probably when I got into college, there was I meant to look it up, but I forgot to do that. There's this video store that was near the college campus and near the mall, and they would sell the rentals at discount after the fact. So before the Blockbuster scale, like the mass scale, but the Blockbuster was like on scale where they had 50 copies of things. But this one, for some reason, you could get copies for like a few bucks, and on a college budget, that's what I would get. And Hellraiser was one of the few movies early on I actually owned a copy of it, at reasonable. Because some of those movies back then, especially if you go backwards, then this time frame, I mean, it could cost you $100 to get a copy of a VHS tape of some of this stuff. But no, these were not that expensive. They were expensive, but they weren't that much. Obviously, I couldn't afford that. Anyway, so long story short, the story centers around Frank. Frank is, the typical toxic man, misogynist, all the stuff that you hear today, womanizing guy. He's obsessed with this box and pain and suffering, all the things. He opens it up and he gets more than he can handle. The chains come out and he's murdered in this room. And then when you cut, you have this other family moving in. It turns out to be his brother and his family, Larry and his wife. His wife's only been with him for a short period of time, and the daughter and her do not get along real well. And what is interesting is that the story is about that Frank had an affair with her the wife. So therefore, she is obsessed with Frank. Right? It's never really kind of come out, but to the point where she loves Frank, she does not love her husband. Right? So Julia is the wife, Claudia Higgins, and through an accident during their moving, and Larry rips his hand open, and the blood in that room where Frank had died brings him back to life. They don't explain it. It just happens, right? It's what we do. This is the rules of the Hellraiser universe. If the blood lands where you die, you can come back for some reason. And there's all this time spent with Julia luring other men in to murder them to get more blood for Frank so he can reincarnate. And then Kirsty stumbling across the situation, put herself in harm's way to get the box and then and open the box, right? This takes up like a mass amount of screen time. There's a quick shot or so of Cenobites, but you're talking about well over an hour or so of footage and stuff that's happening. Like this movie is really got this magnificent legacy that's birthed out of about 15 or 20 minutes of this creation that's so incredibly unique with the Cenobites, right? Because you have, and even then, that nothing went as planned, right? They had no money, right? So Butterball, which is the big, the fat one, he was supposed to have lines. He can't talk through his makeup. He's the one. By the way, if you know what you're looking for, you'll see he actually plays with his wounds all the time. That's his shtick. And Chatterbox. So when Chatterbox has like one prosthetic head on, he can't chatter. When it's the actor, he can chatter. He was supposed to have lines. He can't have lines. So all those lines by the female were supposed to be distributed. And again, the priest, Pinhead, is played with his cold, stoic self, and it's just brilliant. It's really, really well. So let's play a little bit and get into this a little bit about what works so well. This is a short 1.5-minute trailer. This is a shot of Frank opening the box. This is the effect when the Cenobites are going to come. You get the blue light through cracks and crevices, and then of course he's being tortured. Right? Let's see. We get a little bit of sound. So we cut, and these are the shots. Now, these shots come along later on. Like there's a lot of interwoven here. There's Claudia in fear of basically Frank. That's kind of intercut there, so that you're supposed to think it's the Cenobites, but it's not. There's your title card, and then you have this. So this reanimation was next to impossible to pull off. Now there's the man right there, Doug Bradley, pulling off Pinhead. And this is Julia, reacting to Frank, this bloody corpse that's gradually coming back to life by consuming the blood and the bodies of these men that she brings. And then, of course, as you put all this forward, now this is the very end shot of the film. We'll talk about it in a minute. And this is these scenes. This is the horror that Julia is going through. This was the chase scene with the female Cenobite. So she's chasing Kirsty at the end of the film. Right. And there's a lot of narration just over everything. And this is the other creature, which I don't even want to get into the creature. Nobody cared about the creature. All we wanted was more Pinhead and Cenobites. And of course, the house. It's very intercut with several moments in the film that don't fit what's happening in this trailer. Because this is really all we cared about. We didn't care about all that. We don't. We only cared about the big guy. We only cared about the big guy. Did we get the line in this trailer? Oh, I didn't give it. Oh, there we go. Okay, I guess I know we had the line, right? Yeah. Let's see. Let's get the line. We'll tear your soul apart. That's the tagline for the movie. And my favorite line is actually way earlier than that. And it is, he'll say, angels to some, demons to others. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's freaking great line. But so as Frank's coming along, he still needs one more body. There's no other body but the husband. And the husband had kind of been off limits. Claudia, as evil as she is, she was like, I don't want to kill Larry. Larry didn't do anything to deserve all this. But then she caves. So at the end, when Kirsty arrives, thinking all this stuff's happening, she understands a little bit about what's happening. The Cenobites have shown up to her. They have presented themselves to her because she opens the box. And she's like, no, Frank escaped you. And they're like, impossible. So I'll prove it. So she has to figure out a way to get Frank to admit who he is, because basically he's wearing Larry's skin. So these shots and that chain scene where you see is at the very end after Frank has confessed he's in Larry's body. Extremely gruesome, lots of blood. A lot of the blood looks cheesy because it's like bright red blood. No money. So people really criticize this film because of the special effects, especially with the box. And when you close the box, the cenobites disappear. Those graphics, they had no money. Literally, the story went that they spent a weekend doing those graphics. And I guess they basically Clive Barker and this tech dude did it all by hand. They were drinking, and that's what we got. And it's like, that's what we got. We have no money left. There's no money. There was no going back. There was no getting more money or whatever. And the movie did okay. Let me look and see if this. Let me see if this is up. Let me pull this up here real quick. Look at Box Office Mojo. I think it made like $20 million or something. Made a ton of money for its time. Critical response, box office response. 14.5 in the U.S. Made some more money overseas and stuff like that. But on $1 million. So obviously it spawned a sequel and obviously multiple movies after that. And I don't know. I think I'm going to do something maybe with Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. I remember seeing some of the others. I know I've stopped. I don't own any of these. Found them on free on Tubi, by the way. Again, shout out to Tubi. You guys are bringing it. But this new one arrives on Hulu. I have mixed feelings because in the trailer, it's obviously a female Pinhead. And I'm like, but that's not Pinhead. Pinhead is Pinhead. Like, can we just make a different Cenobite leader? Like, she's the new queen? Because they killed Pinhead off in the second movie. And I know he arrives later. You can't die. Anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think? It's literally kind of an underrated triumph for the money, but at the same time, there's not much. This is like this. They cheat, right? It's all filmed in this one house, like locations. You have like this hour plus timelines of all these characters and stuff. We throw a lot of blood and stuff in the room. We have one or two cool special effect moments. But as far as Cenobites go and what we all wanted, because all we wanted was more Pinhead. All we wanted was more Cenobites, but Pinhead. He was freaking you out, man. And he was different, which is, again, why this, I think, had a legacy. Now, I don't know they knew what to do with it at the time, and I don't know if they know what to do with it now. But that was its legacy at the time. I thought I would at least address my thoughts after rewatching it again. You tell me what you think. I am not trying to put it in like a top 10 list for me, compare it to classics like Halloween or anything. I'm just trying to say I really loved it when it came out. I enjoyed the immersion of what I took. And of course, you know, as a person of faith now, you probably are shocked that I would even like a film like this, but it was like, it's just part of my life then. I was a different kind of person then and a different experience. So it is what it is, my friends. But yeah, there you go. Hellraiser. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know.